I can't disconnect right now. Like I just can't. And I go, how the hell does Steph Curry do this? How does Tom Brady do this?
Getting away from that, whether we're going really high or we're going lower.
Zone of genius.
Yeah. Wow. How do I live there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's the edge that I'm giving away because of my mindset. That's the potential profit by resolving these issues.
Welcome in. It's Behind the Lines, purifying sports betting, winning with SX. I'm Shane Paces here on today's show, getting your mind right, what it takes to be a winner. And as always, we'll hit the gridiron grind a little later in the show. Gosu will join us for that. But first, welcoming in Elliot Rowe, global leader in mindset optimization for high performers. He's the #1 mindset coach for poker players in the world. And with them, Sam Hunter, a transformation performance and relationship coach. Welcome to both of you. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks so much.
Thanks so much for having us. Excited to be here. It was great to meet you guys in person not too long ago.
Yes, it was awesome. We met you guys at Bet Bash. I didn't get a chance to attend your session, but I think Pace might have, but I know many other members of our In Play Live team did. And as soon as I saw them come out of it, they came over to me and they're like, Shane, you got to get these guys on the podcast. They were incredible. They're amazing. You gotta have them on. So tell me, how did you wow that room of sports bettors?
So I think the first thing is we were introducing what is potentially a new concept, and that's the controlling your mindset is unbelievably important when it comes to being a profitable sports bettor. I think there's a lot of energy that's put into the technical side, but not necessarily an understanding of the sort of edge that can be gained and how you can gain that edge working on your mindset.
It's actually such an interesting concept, like, because Shane, you know firsthand, right? We bet for a living, more maybe not primary source of income, but we bet for a living, and the people at In Play Live bet for profit, right? And you talk about an edge and mindset, and you're just like, what's this guy talking about, right? Like, it's based on the numbers, it's based on the data, right? So we try to instill mindset coaching as much as we can at In Play Live, but at the same time, I think people know firsthand that it's not easy. #1, because you go on a losing run, and we see people that can get super negative in our group, and a lot of keyboard warriors that can go through a hard time, and you feel the stress through their words, and it impacts you. But then individually, like myself, try to keep a cool head. 14 hours a day on a Saturday betting college football all day, and I don't think I've ever gone 6 minutes without screaming the F word. So
I can attest to that.
One thing that we say that I think is really worth really connecting into with this is, if you don't know what to do, you need to get a strategy coach who'll be working on your strategy. But if you know what to do, but you're not able to do it in the moment, that's when you need to be working on your mindset. And There are probably a lot of guys out there who have a process that they should be following, or they know that they should be following, and they're not able to follow it. So building on their technical skills doesn't help if they can't follow their process. And that's where it's mindset work that me and Sam jump into.
Can you give us an example of who your ideal client would be, from the standpoint of who are you working with in this space that would then, really, really benefit from this work? It sounds like everyone could benefit it, but who are the top tier clients that are optimal for you guys?
So I'm really looking for clients who are betting at a size where small improvements in their mindset are extraordinarily valuable for them. So I've worked with clients betting millions and millions of dollars, and obviously that's where the subtle changes, the fine tuning, really makes a big shift, and that's where it's most valuable. And if a client is there who, way to describe it is, as they're going through their weekend of placing bets, they're feeling emotions coming up that are blocking them from being at their best. So they have an awareness that, hey, I feel angry at this time. I know that it's shutting off my rational mind. I'm feeling a high level of anxiety. I'm desperate to win the money back because that's meaningful for me. Because my identity is I'm a winning bettor, and if I have a losing day, I'm going to think about it all week. So I'd rather place larger bets hoping to get back into the green.
Wow.
to get through. And Sam, your sort of thoughts there.
Yeah, I think a big piece of it too is we're helping them pause and reset. How is each incident an individual one that gets to be separate and have a period, and they don't carry that emotion and that energy forward? Because as you guys are doing multiple games throughout the day, different things, something's going to happen over here. But are we going to let that, let's call it negative, if it doesn't go well? It can also go positive and carry over in a positive way, right? When you feel that momentum. But it's really about, let's say it didn't go how we wanted. How do we leave that there and know that this moment is a new opportunity, a new puzzle to solve, a new moment for something? But if we're carrying this over, it's heavy, it's draining, and we're not at our optimal. So really, how can we create that completion, that reset, so that we're at our best moment to moment?
Okay, let me paint you a picture here. It's a Sunday. Sunday morning rolls around. I've got to take one kid to gymnastics. Okay, I'm losing my prep time for NFL betting that starts at 1 p.m. Eastern. I've got to get a kid to gymnastics, get home, do some prep. Then 1 o'clock rolls around. But guess what? In the middle of the 1 o'clock slate at about 2 o'clock, I got to go pick up that same kid from gymnastics. So we got to go get her, bring her home. I've got to come home. I've got to lock back in. Now I go through a period of sort of rejoining the work process. Maybe I lose a few wagers. Maybe they're really great wagers too. And they're bets I want over and over and over again. But I lose them all. Right? Let's call it 4 in a row, 5 in a row. Now I've got another kid who's got to go to soccer. Her mom's going to take her to soccer. Thankfully for that, I'll be able to pay attention to the 4 o'clock games. But because that one's at soccer and mom's not home, dad's got to make dinner for the other two. So I've got to whip up dinner. And now I've lost a few bets. Now I've maybe missed out on some winners that took place in the afternoon, the 4 o'clock slate. And I'm upset about that. I'm upset about my losses. I've made dinner for the kids. I've got that all done. And now I've got to lock in for the Sunday night NFL game. How do I reset?
That's stressful. Okay, so there's a setup here that has to happen, and being sort of plain about. So if I'm working with a client to be truly professional, so if you came to me with these types of issues, if you're betting at size, you don't have the ability to be taking your kids to gymnastics and picking them up from soccer, right? It's just not realistic that you're going to be able to perform at your best. So you've got to decide, is this a work day where I'm being a true professional, or am I doing this, sort of half doing this, hoping to be successful? So the first red flag is that doesn't sound like a professional Sunday. That sounds like a mixed family and work Sunday. So that's sort of the first piece. And then it's hey, what about, if I've lost 4 bets in a row? You're going to be placing thousands and thousands of bets in a year. And there's going to be some distribution where you're going to get multiple losses in a row. And we need to be building out the mindset of you're the casino and you're looking at your monthly, your quarterly results, and you're not a gambler who's worrying about the results of an individual bet, and expanding out that mindset to the very long term rather than the short term. And it, like you're saying, hey, they were good bets. Great, you did your job, you followed your process. That's all we're looking for you to do, is place good bets and wait for the value to show up, for your EV to eventually pay out over time. The way that you're describing your day sounds extraordinarily stressful, and I think it would be hard for someone to be in their A game whilst dealing with all of those other factors at the same time.
So Sam, let me follow up that Elliot's response with 2 questions. The first would be for the parent who is a professional bettor that is in a similar situation to Shane. How do they segment that day to make the times that they are available, as Elliot quoted, professional, number one? And then number 2, how do you deal with the actual process of that 4 losing bets? I understand, think Elliot said it beautifully. You're the casino, right? Let's have a longer term outlook. How do you actually deal with not feeling that level of stress in the moment?
Yeah. Great. I think the first thing is, yes, to everybody out there that's a parent, and I hear for you, Shane, it's important to do the dad things too, right? And that we want to do that. And we want to, but how are we setting us up for success in both areas versus sort of doing them all, right? Mm-hmm. So I think one thing, if we have a partner, or we're in a relationship, really being able to communicate ahead of time, whether that's all Saturdays or as the weekend is approaching, Saturdays, Sundays, what does this day look like? What is my time going to be? And how can we map this out? Also, too, as a professional and sitting and doing that, or Could we ask for help? Do grandparents or other family members nearby? Could we carpool? Are there certain things that we could strategically look ahead to take off some of that pressure? Right? Because like you said, when we have to check out and reorient back in, it takes us time. We're losing focus. We're losing energy. So being able to say what's reasonable for all of our goals, betting and as a family, as a father, or mother for women that are doing it, what do we want? And then communicating with the partner, what's realistic? What can we do based on what's happening? So I'd say that's the first place that's going to start to relieve some pressure, and committing that instead of half doing this, what if I just don't bet on this one? Or, making some of those conscious choices as well. Then the other thing too is, okay, well, we did do some of that and we're looking to come back. It didn't go well. We had those 4 losses. Really looking at what meaning are we assigning to that? Oh, I had 4 losses, therefore I'm a loser. Or are we really punishing ourselves? I shouldn't have done that. I wasn't focused. I knew it wasn't my best. Okay. But when we spin in the story, that's when it starts to create more pain and it lasts longer. If we can just look at it as data, okay, I did it. What would I want to do different? Or coming back to the casino, this is part of it. If we don't attach meaning, it's not as heavy. But when we start to go into it, or it feels scary, or what if this keeps happening? That's all the thought we're assigning to it. Right. And so we will have automatic negative thoughts pop in. What if this is who I am now? What if this continues? But it only takes hold and has weight when we buy in and we start to believe it. So really, when something like that happens, a strategy would be, can you just challenge the thought? Is that true? Is it true that I'm going to lose forever? No. Okay. This is part of what I do. And then, simple, we were talking about quick strategies to reset. You close your eyes and do you take a breath for a moment? Do you stand up and do you shake your body? A quick way to change state as well that can help is physically moving the body. So you stand up, you do a few jumping jacks, like you're shaking it out, and then allowing us to, okay, what do I need to do? Just even asking that question to reset and to be in this moment and be present at my best. Because oftentimes we will know what it is we need to do. Like Elliot said, we just aren't doing it.
That's amazing advice. So I got to throw a curveball at you guys. So one of the things that I'm notorious for, and our listeners have way too much time in front of me, betting with me for, potentially 26 hours on just one weekend alone, especially with these early morning Europe games in the NFL right now. So these are long, grueling days that we have together. As a team and as a group. And honestly, like, I like to be as positive as possible. They are a lot of fun. I notoriously blame people, and I don't mean my friends, but bad coaching decision, terrible hands, doesn't know how to kick. I could go on forever. Part of to rationalize that, part of the reason why I'll do that type of thing is to justify that it was in fact a good bet. He did the wrong thing. I didn't. But at the same time, maybe ownership entirely should never be assigned. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? And is there something that I should improve?
I think so. So this is that would be my first response.
I agree.
So a lot of the work we do is this subconscious work. So the hypnotherapy, bringing up memories from the past, understanding the programs that are running. You have a program running here that's telling you that you don't want to take full responsibility, and we want to be passing that blame elsewhere, right? And that will be taking energy from you, and it will potentially be impacting the way that you're processing the quality of the bets you're making.
Wow.
So you're betting on sports, and the reality is there are going to be bad referee decisions. There are going to be bad kicks. There are going to be bad coaching decisions over time. But we really need to separate it out to, was this still a good bet or was it a bad bet? And we never want to be in a situation where we're blaming others for a bad strategy or a bad bet that you've placed, instead of questioning, was it actually a poor bet, and I'm trying to pass that over to somebody else. So I would be looking at where else in your life did it serve you to pass the responsibility on to others rather than take it yourself, and then working through the logic that you use to create that program so that perhaps you can be more neutral in these moments, and then you would have more mental space to make the progress and improve yourself in your industry.
Because I think one of the things there, to what Elliot's saying too, is when we are blaming, a lot of times anger, frustration, it's not fair. An emotion is rising. We are less calm, less neutral, less clear. We just are. When emotions start to come on, sometimes the prefrontal cortex will shut down some. And so we're just not as clear. And so I think looking at, okay, even because sometimes was it a bad bet? Sometimes was it their fault, right? Did the kicker trip? Did something happen? And maybe there's an equal spread to that. But regardless, being able to remain neutral and calm and not allowing that energy leak or that anger or frustration to come up, which is possibly going to cloud something else. The other thing too, in all areas of life, not just this, that I always want to encourage clients to do is to be in the place of empowerment where we are in control, because if something happened to us or sort of a victim role, we're powerless. And when we feel powerless, other things can start to creep. It can feel scary. It can feel helpless. It can feel out of control. Whereas when we're taking that ownership, we're now in a position to create something different. What didn't I see? Or, oh, dang, I did see that clearly. That was bad luck, right? As we're going to have, that's going to happen sometimes. But really looking at where are we making sure that we're at least checking in for ownership so that we can do something different or learn from it. Because if we're just blaming, we might miss the piece to learn. What was something there to take or to notice that maybe we would miss?
I think I do a reasonably solid job of recognizing that something was or was not a good or bad bet. So let me give you a hyper specific example. We have, as a group, 7 figures easily on the line. Individually, well into the 5 figures on the line. Sitting there where if the kick is good, the money is made. If the kick isn't, the money is not. Forget about the odds. We already know it's a good bet, right? How do I take ownership for that missed kick? Is it as simple as saying, good bet, let's move on?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Because you don't need to take ownership for a missed kick. The EV is made when the bet is placed.
Totally. Yeah. Okay.
And past that point, it's not relevant as to the individual result. The casino's EV is made because they have the zeros on the roulette wheel.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you hit your number if they know they're going to get infinite volume. And you guys know that there are going to be sports to bet on forever.
Right.
There is going to be volume that you can put in. So obviously, so long as bookies are available, all of the pieces there. But realistically, there's large amounts of volume that can go in. Your money is made when the bet is placed, and you collect that money over time. And for every missed kick that goes against you, over a long enough time period, you're going to get lucky in another situation that perhaps you should have lost.
Yeah, for sure. That's great advice. Now, I have 2 follow-up questions to the same scenario. The first will be, and this actually comes from mindset coaching from a different book that I've read, and I challenged with you guys with this at the pool interview that never got posted because, of course, guys, our listeners will love this one, Shane. My mic was unplugged when we recorded it because my mic keeps falling out on streams. People are setting over-unders for me on how many times my mic's going to be unplugged on streams right now. I hope it's plugged in right now, and I sound crystal clear, but the interview, the mic was unplugged, so I have to glug for that. The mindset that I have embraced in my life, and it is from a book that I've read, is that I still react to that situation, but move on after you've reacted. And I asked you guys in the interview by the pool, should I react in that moment? And you both said no. So how the hell in that moment, this kick misses, do I simply not fucking go nuts? Number 1. And number 2, how do I then move on to the next opportunity? How do I let that go? And I'm actually going to show you a bit of an example of something that I'll do very almost religiously. Is I will go back and talk about that later in the day. And almost try to rationalize things. Like if this happened, if that happened, but we can't control that, but I'll still bring it up. Do I do that? Do I let it go? How do I go about it? Do I react?
So the ideal is you're doing the work prior to the session so that those triggers don't fire in the way that they are.
Wow.
So it's a case of, it's not like, hey, just don't react when the emotion comes up. What we want to do is do the work so that the emotion doesn't even fire, because there are situations that there are other people who in that same moment wouldn't respond in the way you do. So that means that there is some choice to this. It's like aces being cracked in poker. Some players go crazy, other players couldn't care less because they got their money in.
Right.
And it's understanding why you're responding this way, why you feel you need to defend yourself. It wasn't my fault. It was the kicker. Hey, if things had gone this, I was right. Like, where's that coming from?
Right.
And if that's resolved before you sit down for the Sunday, then your response is different. But you're right. If you have the response, you can't just hold it in tight. It's doing the work so the response doesn't hit. So.
Yeah, I was going to say there's two pieces to that, right? One on what Elliot's saying is if we're doing the pre-work ahead of time, it allows it to not come. If and when it is coming, we cannot push it and suppress it. And when we do repress things, they just stack in the body. They'll come out sideways somewhere later in the day. We'll snap at a kid or something unintentionally. So if we haven't done the work ahead of time, we do want to feel it in the moment. We do want to just get better at doing it faster so we can reset and move on. Right? So that book that you were saying is not wrong. It's just it's a second strategy, right? As it comes up, can we notice it? Can we notice and not let it overtake us and hijack us, but notice, oh, I have frustration. Can we name it? You don't have to do it out loud, but notice it. Oh, I feel a lot of frustration. I feel a lot of anger. What would it feel like, or what needs to happen for me to release that? Sometimes even the noticing and naming of something, even internally, can allow it to start to process. And it sounds like what's happening for you too, when we're wanting to bring it up later in the day, is it still feels unprocessed. And so we're wanting to let it out, to have it be received. Maybe we're wanting some validation or some feedback that we did see it right. And that's part of you working through it.
Right. Yeah, they say the top 5, this is a study done from like the power 4 tennis players. So like the Djokovic, Nadal, Murray, who am I missing? Federer era, the top 5 tennis players in the world, what separates them, not from the other tennis players in the world, from the other top 20. So if you look at the top 25, the top 5 are separated specifically on their ability to move on from what just happened, whether it was good or bad. So it feels so unbelievably inhuman for that field goal to go through the uprights and not celebrate. So at In Play Live, we have this green gun. Okay. And every time we win a bet, we fire it and our chat lights up with green guns. And that's something that I have believed in as obviously a positive thing. And we're reacting to, having just won. But based on what you guys told me, if the field goal misses and I don't react, that means that if it goes through the uprights, I also would not react. So that whole that just feels inhuman to me.
It's a level of reaction and response, right? So this is what we don't want is a roller coaster. So the more that you positively celebrate something that's variance, the more you're going to negatively suffer from something that's variance. And what we want is clear, rational decision making through your entire day. We don't want you to be on an emotional, I'm super high, I'm the best ever, oh, I'm terrible, I'm the best ever, I'm terrible. We want this sort of process of like, yes, you can be happy, you can celebrate to some extent, but we don't want wild celebrations. We want this to be a relatively calm, focused, professional attitude where you're collecting EV over time. The issue with this is, you're doing this, there's an audience there, it will be less entertaining. Right? It will be less fun, and there's a dynamic at play there where, that might be a problem for the group if it's all serious and it's all work and there's less of the celebration and there's less of the drama when things go against you. But I think in terms of clear thought processing and, making the most possible money, that's going to come when those extremes aren't as high and you're sort of on a smooth gradient.
Go ahead, Shane.
Because I wanted to bring that up, and I'm glad Elliot touched on that, because I wonder if we were, up until this point, missing the aspect of the audience and the audience involvement. Pace isn't alone betting on his own and having those reactions with, perhaps his wife in the room or something like that, or a family. But he's doing it with hundreds of other people watching him online, and they're following the calls, right? So when he loses a bet, everybody else is losing, and there's a weight to that. Whereas when he wins as well, then the jubilation is increased that much more when you have everybody sort of feeding into the chat positivity off of a win and negativity off of a loss. So how does someone manage that? And it's not just Pace, there's other pros on stream with them making calls as well. How should they sort of try to manage that audience involvement? And then on the flip side, if you're in the audience, how do you sort of gauge how you participate? And I'll throw that to Sam.
Okay. Yeah, I think one of the things too, is again, it's not about not celebrating, but again, I think it's that how long does it take us to return to our clear-headed baseline, right? Just like when we were talking about something doesn't go well and we're feeling that frustration and we're coming back. I also hear too, when people are following calls, is there this pressure and responsibility, which feels even heavier and even more frustration on that. So I think it's even speaking to when you're working with your team and what you're doing of like, how do we feel this, but we do it in a way that keeps us in the zone and focused, and that it's about having fun because we want you guys to do that and enjoy that. But it's also about what allows us to stay in our best, most peak performing state. And what does that look like? Because we can still go really, really high. And if we stay there, do we again lose our process? And maybe we don't, but that's something to be noticing. Like, do we go into the positives and because we're riding high and feeling good, we throw something extra that maybe we wouldn't have? And so it's really, I think, tuning in and noticing that what is just keeps us in our process, our zone of genius, and that true flow where we're not getting away from that, whether we're going really high or we're going lower.
Zone of genius.
Yeah. Wow. How do I live there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And that's
Sam. Give her a call.
How do we do that unconscious work to identify maybe what we didn't even realize was holding us back? Sometimes we know something, we know maybe we deal with frustration or anxiety or anger or something. We can see, I don't know where this comes from, or maybe we do, but we haven't been able to shift it or unlock or unhook from it. And so when we start to do this unconscious work, you don't even have to know what it is that is blocking you. We just want to know what the situation is that's coming up in life now. And we work to remove the barrier between the conscious and unconscious mind so we can discover it together. People don't have to know what it is. And then it's like we can unhook from that thing. And then you get to move right through to being more where you want to be.
Yeah. It's obviously not an easy process too. And I think that you guys know this firsthand. People have to deal with this in their day-to-day life at every level, whether it's, not the highest level of anything, right up to, I've literally spent time trying to find out how athletes sleep before the Super Bowl or Game 7. Because I'm sitting there in my situation sometimes and I'm like, God, I can't disconnect right now. Like I just can't. And I go, how the hell does Steph Curry do this? How does Tom Brady do this? And I've actually tried to find content on this, and believe it or not, to an extent, it is lacking, because I'll look at it, I'll go, this is nothing like the pressure or stress or whatever it is that those guys have to deal with. So, and I'm sure it's something they work very hard on as well.
Well, we actually have a friend who's a sleep coach, so what we can do is we can introduce her, and you can give her an interview. And
there you go.
You can talk you through those processes.
There you go.
But one of the biggest things is so much of this is learning a new skill. It's starting to flex a muscle that maybe we didn't realize we had, and we're learning how to use. How do I turn it off? And at first things can feel hard, whether I'm going to do the sleep meditation, but we're trying to listen to it and the brain is still racing. So a lot of it is trying to figure out, okay, let's try a strategy. Are we going to do some breathing before bed? Do we want to do a meditation or something before bed? And usually often when we start any of it, it's clunky and we maybe don't notice the huge gains. But when we don't abandon it right away and we keep going, we're starting to train the mind that it's like, oh, I know what you're wanting me to do here. We're giving it new instruction, and it becomes easier and easier, because I believe for many of them, and it'd be interesting to dive more into that, and it's interesting that it's kind of hard to find, is how have they trained themselves to be able to flip a switch, right? That I'm turning it off right now because in the morning it's going to allow me to turn it back on and be better. How have we installed that program? And that is some of the work that we help people do, because there's a part of the mind that likely believes if I focus on it now, if I think about it now, if I do something now, there's going to be gains. And it's really like we want to help that part realize, yes, this may be true a little bit, or it may have been true in the past, but actually this belief is causing some hindrance in our performance. And it's like introducing this new concept And then it's, oh, okay. And a lot of times, sometimes it can be a reframe, it can be an unconscious piece. And once it clicks, it's like, oh, I know what we're here to do. I know my instruction of how we're going to best serve this individual.
Right. So it certainly sounds like there's a lot of work that needs to go in behind the scenes. Unfortunately, we live in a world where people want quick solutions. So let me ask you guys for a few quick, simple tips that maybe the audience can use to their benefit, that can just at least start that process that you referred to as maybe like, training a new muscle. So again, 14-hour Saturdays, potentially 14 to 12-hour Sundays. You're in the thick of it. You do feel that weight. You have identified it, where you go, okay, sometimes, like Sam, you said, half the battle sometimes can just be recognizing like, hey, I'm stressed, hey, I'm angry, right? You have identified it. What are some you mentioned the jumping jacks. What are some simple things people can do to put the past in the past?
One of them is, when you notice a mistake that's been made, write it down and then have a time to review all of that data that's separate from the day.
Okay. So you mean a different day?
Yep, a different day. So what you're looking, as you described, you'll be bringing up the same issue later in the stream, right? So
Right.
you're still there. It's still there with you.
Yes.
And what I would say, if you're questioning a bet that you've made, okay, I'm questioning this bet. The time and place for me to look into that is on Tuesday. And once your subconscious knows that there is a time and a space that you're going to be doing that work, it turns the volume down on the Sunday where you actually have to be focusing on your performance.
Wow. That's
So
really smart.
it moves it across for you. Then obviously the sleep, exercise, all of the prep that you can do, setting yourself up for success in every way prior to your session. The book covers that a lot for poker, and I believe it's the same for sports betting as well.
We haven't actually brought up the book, Shane. Why don't you introduce the book?
A-Game Poker. Master the mental game, create a winning mindset, and dominate the modern poker game. And I believe that, you could replace poker with just about anything on here. Lawyer, doctor, teacher, a police officer, sports bettor, whatever you want to put on here. This book you could read it and just swap out poker for anything. And it's kind of like, well, what are the best poker players in the world doing that I'm not? That's sort of a starting point for the book. But you could replace that with anything else. What are the best lawyers doing in the world if I want to be a lawyer that I'm not? Or in our case, for our audience, what are the best sports bettors in the world doing that I'm not? And there's a lot to kind of go through there. But I think that's a really good fundamental sort of starting point. And then, Elliot, you kind of ended off with the detrimental mental programs. And I think we've kind of touched a little bit on it. I think that's kind of what Sam was getting at. But where do these mental programs that are running in the subconscious come from, Elliot?
So as we're growing up, we learn to pick up fears, anxieties, emotions, because they serve us at some point. So from an evolutionary perspective, 20,000 years ago, we're in the jungle. Mum screams when she sees a tiger. Child picks up a fear of tigers. That's really useful as a survival mechanism.
Right.
We're still picking up fears, anxieties, emotional responses in the modern world in the same way, because that's just how evolution has worked. So public speaking, you get laughed at by the other kids in your first show and tell. Perhaps you're scared of public speaking forever. Taking the blame for something as a child, and you get in a large level of trouble, and then you try and make excuses from that point forward. An anger response, keeping you safe against a bully, meaning that you continue to have these anger responses. So there are these moments through our childhood where we learn these programs, and we call them detrimental mental programs, because it's a program that served you when you were 5 years old, but it's not serving you as an adult for you to reach your highest level of performance. And the work that me and Sam do is utilize subconscious modalities to dig into those memories, start working through the emotions that are trapped there, so that the bell doesn't ring in the same way. The bullying memory that comes up of 7-year-old you was getting punched and he thought it was life and death, but 40-year-old you can see it's 2 7-year-olds at the playground. We can process that emotion. Those fears don't come up in the same way in our everyday lives. And that's the sort of the deeper work that I've seen huge changes in clients that I've worked with over the years as we reach those key points.
That's incredible.
How do you do that deeper work? And is hypnosis the only way? Because I know you brought that up as a sort of life-changing part or sort of something that changed your life in a major way, and it comes up in the book as well. How important is hypnosis, and what would you say to all the skeptics out there?
So, I mean, my modality is hypnotherapy. For me, it was life-changing. Hypnosis is not like stage. The work that we do isn't like stage hypnosis or the stuff you see in movies. This is like a guided meditation process that makes the subconscious mind dominant over the conscious mind so that it shows you the roots of where these programs are coming from. So it just brings up memories in a different way. There's no magic to this, but it can feel magic in terms of the level of change. But when somebody's doing talk therapy, it's their conscious mind trying to give reasons, but it's not hitting the programming behind it. So it's a bit like you're moving the windows on a computer screen, whereas the subconscious modalities like hypnotherapy is you're changing the DOS programming behind the windows on the screen that allows you to have the actual actionable change. And your sort of take on it, Sam?
Yeah, and hypnotherapy is a beautiful modality. There are others. One of the ways that I'll refer to stuff to is that we want to do processing modalities, something that allows us to help uncover, root it out, and then reintegrate and process. So other types that you would hear or branches of stuff is internal family systems or IFS, heart's work, timeline therapy, EMDR. There's EFT. There's a bunch of different, we've trained in a lot of them. And then there's others out there as well. The one thing I would encourage people to do is, like Elliot said, when we're just in talk therapy and we stay here in the conscious mind, we can loop in our pattern and program because we're looking at it, we're analyzing it, we're giving it even more attention, and it continues to fire that same neural pathway. What we're looking to do is not do that. And it can take a really long time too for negative emotions to process and release. There was a study that showed that it can take 60 to 80 hours when you just talk about it. But if we can find the root of it and process what is there, what has been held, where were things stuck, that can be accomplished in a single session, in a few hours, in a few weeks. So that's part of that piece that allows us to get those gains and those leaps a lot faster than just simply analyzing and talking about it.
Right. So you're sort of saying, hypnosis isn't the only way, but it is very effective, and it can be often a faster way.
Yes.
Right. Wow.
Crazy. That's something that I would have never even kind of remotely considered.
And even now that I am considering it, I don't even know how, if let's say I wanted to do this, I don't know where I would start. Like, where am I going to go find the local hypnotist who can do this for me?
I mean, that's
it sounds scary finding the local hypnotist. Shane. It sounds like you're heading to like maybe a circus and you don't know if you're going to come out alive.
And we have a team of coaches, and all of them have experience working with poker players and gamblers and traders. One of the difficulties with working with therapists in your industry specifically is a lot of the time, if you go and work on your mindset, a lot of them are going to believe that they're trying to cure your gambling problem.
Right.
So it can be very awkward for anyone in professional gambling to speak to a professional. Ideally, it's a professional who has experience working with professional gamblers and helping professional gamblers improve their performance, not helping them quit. And that's one of the difficulties, I think, that so many people see. And it's one of the reasons we specialize in this sort of area with my team.
It's really interesting, that whole concept, because it kind of goes back to what you originally said about your mindset being an edge in and of itself. And Shane, I know firsthand, we haven't, like, the edge is there, right? It's about, what did you call it? Genius mode? Genius zone?
Zone of genius.
Like genius mode is like God mode. Yeah. So going into zone of genius, zone of God, if you're just in that mode and you're clicking, you're going to lose bets. That's never, ever a question. But if you can sit there and live there, it's like, tell me that's not an edge. I know it is. Right. So, it's a really cool concept. And I never would have thought of, like this approach to potentially finding it in a longer term or a more consistent capacity.
And I think that was one of the takeaways from Bet Bash. For you asked, what was it that made the guys interested in telling you to interview us? And I think it's just showing a new way that, hey, this industry probably hasn't seen this kind of work. I've worked with some players in the industry, and Sam does, but this isn't, it's certainly not everybody in the industry is talking about mindset. In poker, almost all of the professionals now, the high-end professionals, they're all working with a mental game coach. So the success was seen, and because of the success that was seen, all of the players are now doing that. I don't think it's reached that same saturation point in sports betting, and the edge is potentially even higher because sport betting, it's uncapped.
It is capped based on what the sports books will actually take in action.
Yeah.
But there is a fundamental difference between the two. There's so many similarities. There's a fundamental difference between the two. And when we play poker, the four of us sit down at a table, we're playing against each other. When we bet on sports, we are not playing against each other. And interestingly enough, a lot of recreational bettors, so getting away from the discussion of it being professional gambling, they do view it as them against their buddies about who can be right. And there's no EV or edge there whatsoever. The only person right sitting in the room is the one that took the bets, of course, right? But with poker, when everyone has the same hand charts, when everyone has the same info, especially when it comes to online poker, whatever that guy's hand and how he just played it, we either did or did not see his cards. We all got the same information. There's no tell necessarily on his body language other than the time he took for that ticker to scroll off on how much time he had to play the hand. You're playing against each other. So the mindset edge could be the only edge. So that makes total sense. Now, when it comes to sports betting, the similarity of diminishing edge, because in the poker industry, in the 2000s boom in poker, the edge was playing against bad players because there was such a rush to the game that you had, whether it was people flooding out of a hockey game that were drunk at the tables, to people playing in Vegas wanting to play their first ever tournament. That still exists, but it's not there, and it's certainly not there at the highest levels. You had that happening at the highest levels, where just total fish would show up with huge amounts of money. And I'm sure that happens to an extent, but that's not what you make your living off of. So the edge eroded over time. Similarly with sports betting, edges do erode over time, whether the sports book got rid of them, number one, whether something happened from a trend standpoint in the league that no longer made that profitable. The sports books get rid of the winning players so that they can't continue to play on that site, and they have to try to make that edge work elsewhere. And then their data, AI, all the things that they're dealing with is improving. So mindset, I believe, to be fundamental to being able to deal with that, not necessarily to find the edge itself, but to be able to deal with that process of going, hey, what was once here no longer is. How can I do this?
The morning of that?
Yeah,
I mean, the way.
Sorry, Elliot. It's just resilience. Sorry, I just want to throw that word out there. That we're helping people have is that resilience, that whatever's happening, that we can recover, that we can face it, that we can figure it out, and that there's that peace and calm within that.
Right.
And I think a way of sort of demonstrating the edge to sports bettors that I've used in the past is if you think over the last 3 months of the bets that you've placed, in how many situations did you cost yourself money because of your emotions?
How do you quantify that?
Yeah.
I mean, I think you can be quite honest with yourself. I mean, let's say I've got bettors who follow processes and they follow bet sizing rules, and they know in certain instances, because they were down for a day, they bet more money.
Sure.
I think that's quite quantifiable as an emotional mistake that's cost them money.
Wow.
Right.
There are others who place too many bets. They place more bets than they were planning to. So it's not necessarily the size of bet, but the number of bets. Or they bet on sports where they didn't really have an edge. Or they had a winning day, and because they were up so much, they allowed themselves to have a few treat bets.
A buffer, yeah.
Right. Okay.
What did you call it? Treat bets?
Treats. Like they give themselves a treat.
I love that.
A little dessert.
Shane, I might call a little treat late tonight.
but that's where
that'd be the player prop ad. That'd be the ad.
Yes. I'm betting it again. It keeps winning. I gotta go one more.
That's
No.
But these are the ones that you add up and you say, okay, well, that's the edge that I'm giving away because of my mindset. That's the potential profit by resolving these issues.
Right.
So I know over the last 3 months, X $1,000 I've given away because of my emotional response. You should be like, okay, now I should be investing in some way to improve my emotional response because that's the return I expect to get. And for the bettors who are betting millions and millions of dollars, obviously solving that is a very, very important issue. And if you're betting hundreds of dollars, it's less of a problem.
I got to ask you something, Elliot. So you've worked with the best poker players in the world.
Yeah.
Correct? Have you worked with some of the best sports bettors in the world?
Yeah.
Have you worked with non-gamblers at the top of their industry?
Okay, so I mean, to give context, I've worked with the top poker players in the world, Wall Street traders, crypto traders, UFC fighters, Olympic athletes, CEOs of major companies, founders of major companies. So really elite in a number of different industries and a number of different sports. And I see the trends through all of those. DFS as well. I work with some of the best DFS players in the world.
I like
so it's sorry.
I like how you said "were," because apparently that edge is. I've heard that edge is gone. I don't know first.
I mean, I was working with them probably 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah,
that DFS was big in the way that, you know, from a more professional attitude, it seems to have shifted now. Some of those guys left and they're doing different things because there are better edges elsewhere. But I've worked with people in all of the industries because, again, when performance means large amounts of extra money, that's where the people find me.
Yeah. So Shane already mentioned, you know, you could change the title of the book and just swap out poker for whatever. But from my standpoint, I look at it and I go, how do you relate at the highest level of industries that you don't perform in yourself when you have a client that comes to you and expects you to understand? How does that transition from,
So effectively, I've done 15,000 hours of working with high performers in different industries, and I just have an unbelievable, pattern recognition now,
right,
for what it takes to be a high performer in anything. Humans are humans, and I help humans perform better in their industry. And I know that it's not specific to any specific industry because, as I say, I've taken multiple poker players to number one in the world, multiple UFC fighters to UFC champion, Olympians to medals, companies to exits, traders, crypto traders from hundreds of thousands to literally, over $100 million. Like,
wow,
I've had success after success in different industries. So it's something where success leaves clues, and humans are humans. Sam.
Well, and I think one of the important things too is, again, it goes back to that piece of we're not teaching the strategy of how to execute better at what they're doing in their specific field, right? We are working with the emotion, the tilt, the frustration that's coming up, these parts that are coming up. And that is universal, like within the human, as Elliot keeps saying. So some of it is, yes, we want to know what's happening, of like, tell us how the scenario is playing out. And then we want to get curious, though, what's the emotional response that's taking place there? And that we could work with. Of course, being in these industries, we do have a good knowledge of what our clients are doing from being, but even if we didn't, even if somebody in an industry we had never worked with before came to us, we would be able to still help in that same way by asking questions enough to understand what is the experience that they were having, what are the emotions that are there, and then helping them uncover that.
Right. Yeah, I guess one of the differences with what we do, and by the way, the reason why I asked that is because you guys do talk the talk, and it's like, it sounds like you're bettors almost. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if you guys do bet on sports, but one of the things that really differentiates us, which maybe has a bit more similarities to poker, is that we're live bettors. So a lot of the pros around the industry, they'll typically place their bets before the games start. Whereas we are basing everything we do off of what we're seeing.
I would say that's where mindset is so much more important for you guys.
Yeah,
because the emotional swings are going to damage your decision-making process in a different way. If you placed all your bets on Saturday, we're watching them on Sunday. But so long as that's all you're doing, it's not going to impact your edge too much. Obviously, where it does is if they then suddenly start betting when they shouldn't, on one day. In your case, you're on the roller coaster. We need your mind as clear as it can possibly be for each of those bets that you place. And that's where I believe an edge can be generated with a clearer mindset in those moments.
Okay, so I'm not referencing stepping away from gambling, but stepping away for the day. When and where do you make the decision to say, which by the way, I never do personally, never, ever, under any circumstance. There was one day, but I'm having a tough day. Maybe I didn't get a good sleep. Shane made the analogy earlier about some of the stresses and things like that. Do you ever just say today's not my day?
Yeah. I mean, if you're sick, some guys try and play through sickness. Quite clearly, you're going to be giving up your edge. There are times when if you know that you've started betting with emotion and you're no longer following a rational process, you're better off stepping away and recovering rather than allowing that to just play through.
And can you recover within that day and come back, or do you call it a day?
In some instances, it's possible to, but oftentimes that's when the most damage is done.
Right.
And it's the doing the work away from the computer. So, hey, I've been extremely tilted because of X, Y, and Z. And then you do the deep therapy work so that you're heading back without those same triggers, rather than just playing through and hoping it's going to get better. And it's like the work isn't done on the day. I believe the work is done before the day, if that makes sense.
Right. Mm-hmm. Can I throw one more at you guys just with betting in a group? There'll be certain people within the group, and you guys know this firsthand, I'm sure, with the people that you work with, is that there's like negativity can be very contagious. So if I'm being negative on camera with everyone, that's going to impact them tremendously. How could they deal with me being negative, and how could I deal with someone being negative in the group that's impacting me? How do you let go of those parameters that are a major part of your day that potentially are impacting you in the moment where you don't want them to?
One thing that I would encourage, and I don't know the environment of the community, but I imagine you guys seem very close knit, like you're having a lot of fun. Like, is there permission, and is it okay to, in a loving way, point that out to that individual?
Sure. I do all the time.
Yeah. I imagine so, because
maybe not in a loving way, but
I was going to say, I don't know how loving always pays, but
and again, it's hurting them as well, right? Like, it's starting with them internally, and that's going to dysregulate what they have going on. And then it's sort of spreading and leaking. So I think one of the things is, if we can point it out, like, hey, I appreciate you, and this is going to throw us all off. Can we check in on this? Right. And some of this process too, and what you guys were just talking about a little bit before, is some of this is like emotional education, that we're learning to even notice our experience, to check in. How are we doing? And a tip that can help too, on like, is there ever a day we don't play? Also grief. Let's say something happened, right? Even a big fight with a spouse. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, but like, when we're good and solid in our relationships and in our life, everything's a little easier. We're on the same team. We can do it all. We have a big blow up, and that tension is still there and palpable. It's occupying some space, So one of the things that can be great in a routine, when we were talking about, like, how do we checking in, like asking yourself a couple questions before you sit down. And I talk about this a lot with poker players too. And if you can't answer yes to those, it's not the moment. Maybe it's not the whole day off, but what do you need to do to be able to get in that right state, that right frame, to say, I'm going to give myself my best chances here. Otherwise, we're burning money sometimes, right? If we're not having the awareness to check in with ourselves.
I think it was probably around this time last year, Pace, that I came here on the podcast and described some tension that was impacting my betting from my marriage. Sam, I want to ask you about having those conversations with your significant others, because this is something I've been asked quite a bit. In fact, I was asked when we did our panel, Pace.
Our panel at Bet Bash, Shane got asked about the family thing.
I got asked, it came up because we're betting live, and somebody, kind of asked, hey, how do you tell your wife you're going to be sitting and betting for 12 hours straight without her leaving you? And it's literally a conversation that I think everybody that's in Play Live that's married has had to have.
Elliot, no offense to Elliot. He sounded like a robot when he was like, that's not a professional day, Shane. And Shane's like, I got a family. Like,
No.
I wanted to say one quick thing before I leave Sam, but that's where it's like if you were a trader on Wall Street, you go to your office and you trade.
Yeah.
And yeah, you guys can do this from home, but if we're talking, it depends on the size of the money that we're playing with. But if you have potential for this to be tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, I mean, with my crypto guys, sometimes it's tens of millions of dollars swings. Like, unfortunately, you might have to take a day away from the family, sit in an office and be on your own because there is so much on the line. And that's the way I sort of describe it. Is like, obviously it's much more fun to be with the family. It's better, but we have to be cautious about the level of focus and the sort of the risk reward there. But sorry, Sam.
And so that is true, right? And now we take that into relational dynamics, right?
Right.
And that's where it becomes the we. Like, hey, honey, if I have this time and this focus on a Saturday, on a Sunday, this is our potential. This is our upside. This is what it can do and provide for us in the family.
Right.
What are your goals together as a unit for the year, for the month? What are the things you want to do? And can we help with shared meaning and creation of, if you can help support me on these days, I believe I can do this, which helps support the house remodel or college tuition or whatever it is. So if we can help enroll them in the process and the decision versus dictating to them, nobody likes to be told what's happening, right?
Right.
But if we can say, this is what I'm thinking, even if really what you're hoping is this is what I'm doing, right? If we can share it in a way of, this is what I'm thinking, does this work for you? Or can we sit down and figure out what does, right? Because if that's when we don't, and when we say this is what I need or this is what's happening, also to our partner, you know, we talked about what are we making something mean? Our partner is making it mean something. Oh, you don't care about me, or oh, you want me to do everything. Likely, I bet that is completely untrue. So if we can slow down a little bit in the communication and be curious, if she's frustrated or upset, hey, honey, what are you needing from me? Or how can I help? Help me better understand this. And if she's like, well, I'm just overwhelmed and I haven't got to see my sister and I had that baby shower and you forgot, or whatever it is. But then we can actually talk about the actual issue at hand and the feelings that are coming up. I'm not feeling supported, or I feel like you're missing out on the kids. And then with that, when it's the real details, now we can solve that problem. Oh, okay, that makes sense. How about on Thursday night, I do something special with just the kids, right? Then we can be in this place of actually crafting solutions. So the first thing really is like slowing down a little bit, because we both can get frustrated. It can feel like we want to do something and they're not letting us, and we have this power struggle. So really curiosity and like, help me understand what's happening for you or what your desires are. Also, if we have that shared meaning and goal of why we're doing this, why we're going to work, right? Why we're doing this, or as big supplemental income, then they could be there rooting with, cheering you on what that's like and why it makes sense for everybody to be doing it.
Amazing advice.
Awesome stuff there. Yeah. You know, and it's, you know, it can still be a tough conversation, right? But you gotta have it. And I think maybe even tougher, given that we're talking about sports betting and what Elliot got to earlier with going to the therapist, right? Gambling, and they're going to try to talk you out of it. So any advice for our audience out there in terms of sort of how to explain to people that it doesn't have to be gambling?
I think the first is making sure that you're not treating it as gambling.
Right.
So if you say it's not gambling and then you're excessively celebrating your wins and you're crushed by your losses, probably you're gambling, right? That probably is actually gambling, and we're calling it something else.
I might be evidence of the contrary on that, Elliot, because I'm a big celebrator and I'm a pretty long-term successful bettor.
But you're actually tracking your wins, I'm guessing.
Yeah, but I've always called that for the love of the game. I'm passionate about the game. You know? I'm just maybe I need to tone it down a little bit.
But, and there's probably a few other criteria, like he's saying.
Well, I was going to say the other thing is this. I noticed there are a lot of people who say they're sports bettors and they're not gamblers, but they don't actually track their wins and losses, truly track them.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people hide what's really happening. And I would say anyone out there who doesn't definitely know exactly how much they're up or down, I would say you're probably gambling rather than being professional, even if you have an edge. And that's I've seen that over and over again with people claiming to be professionals in something like gambling or poker or DFS. And they say, okay, so what do your last 3 months of results look like? And say, well, I haven't tracked it. Then you're not a professional.
Wow.
Yeah, I fully totally. You're speaking my language there, Elliot, because I'm a big proponent of tracking, and we talk a lot about
You know what's interesting though, Shane, is from my journey is I never tracked thing and I was so successful. And it sounds like bullshit now after hearing that. But the reason why I didn't was because it was so much easier then. You know what I mean? So it's like I tracked balances.
Right. Your bankroll was your tracker.
But bet by bet, I didn't care.
But some people aren't even tracking their balance.
Right.
They're betting on lots and lots of different sites, or playing poker on lots of different sites, or and they don't even know if they're up or down at all over the last 6 months. And it's usually because they're down and they don't want to admit it.
Wow. That's wild.
Yeah.
Good advice though, too, because I know there's a solid percentage of our group that just won't make the transition over to entering bets into their tracker.
Yeah, you were just saying that you just had a conversation with somebody who left and was refusing to track.
Refused. And it's like, well, take accountability or track. So guys, I know we're taking up tons of your time here, but we could probably go on for 5, 6, 7 more hours. Would you guys think you'll be back at Bet Bash again?
I hope so. I think it was fun. It's a fun industry. And again, it feels like we're educating an industry on what's possible. And that makes it exciting for us.
In an ideal world, I would attend your guys' session and have it not overlap with ours. And then the session after that is the California wine tasting, and we all go do it together. That would be the perfect combination, because I don't know if I did the wine tasting. I didn't sign up for it, but then there was some sort of Spanky came out and he goes, there's a ton of extra room in here. And it was right towards the end of the second day, like the perfect time for a glass of wine. And I sat down and there was empty seats on both sides of me with all the wine poured. So I definitely had a good final session there. But that would be optimal if you guys could be back, so that we could all the people that attend Bet Bash that are members of ours 100% will be signing up for your guys seminar after this call today for sure. And I know I'll be there with bells on. How do we pursue any listeners that want to pursue your guys coaching of any kind? How do they find you, and how does that process work?
So you can go to primedmind.com and there's a coaching page. You can apply. Sam Hunter with 2Ms.com as well, if you want to reach out to Sam. And I'm on elliotrowe.com. But as I say, you can sort of reach from each of those. I'm on Twitter and Instagram as well as Elliot Rowe. So very searchable, and just reach out. And again, we have a full team of coaches who can cover all sorts of different price points. And we have coaches who specialize, like myself and Sam. We have worked with so many people in these types of industries that we understand the problems you're facing and the sort of upside it can create. Sam?
Yeah. And for me, Elliot obviously already said the website. It's Sam with 2Ms, hunter.com. And on Instagram, it's Samantha with 2Ms, Hunter. And yeah, we're super thrilled for you guys to have us to help out in any way that we can. So yeah, we look forward to adding more value. And if we can help support, reach out through the website or ask a question through Instagram, we'd love to be able to connect.
Awesome stuff.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you both so much for coming on the show. This was fantastic.
Thanks, guys.
Yes, thank you.
All right, let's hit the grind. Gosu's here. Special guest joining for this segment, Tog Goodman. Great to see you, Honourable. How are you?
Good to see you. I'm good. Good to see you, Shane.
Right on. Welcome to the segment here with John. I hope you give out some winners for our audience out there. But very quickly, John, recapping last week, how did we do?
Yeah, so slightly down on the week. We went 5-6 overall, so 2-3 in each, the NFL and the NCAA football, and then 1-0. The CFL hot streak continues. We were on the wrong end of some last-second shenanigans once again in college football with a Vandy plus 10.5 busted with 17 seconds left. They covered for 59 minutes and 43 seconds in that game, and then lost at the end to one of those college run-it-up touchdowns. So we've been on the wrong end of, I think, 3 or 4 of those this year with a breakthrough score when the guy goes down, the game's over. Maybe we'll get one in our favor at some point.
Yeah, you got to love college, for all of that. College being college is what it sounds like. Yeah. Okay, what do you got for us this week? We'll start in college.
Yeah, so there's some really good games this week, some nice high-profile matchups. So we'll start with back to the old well with Bert Bielema and Illinois at home, catching 15.5 right now against Ohio State. I continue to bet Illinois every week, even though I lost when they played Indiana in that historic blowout. But this is just way too many points. I have this right around 10. This opened 16.5. So if you are in the In Play Live Pro community, I'm going to start posting my early look ahead stuff in the Discord chat. So you can join, get ahead of some of those lines. I think I won 4 bets by the hook that otherwise would have lost this week in college football by getting an early line on Sunday, Monday. So gave out 16.5 in Illinois. This is 15.5. It'll probably go down close to 14. So I like Illinois at home there. I think it's just way too many points for two teams that are probably going to take it pretty slow here in this game.
Okay.
Next up, big matchup, top 10, Indiana at Oregon. This line opened at 10. Indiana's down to 7.5 in most places. I still like Indiana plus 7.5. Some questions on Oregon after we saw what Penn State looked like on the road there at UCLA. I still think that was a really impressive win by them, but I honestly, I don't know what that win really means now, given all the body of work that we've seen. So Indiana, I think, has proven with that blowout win at Illinois that they believe that they're one of these top tier teams and can beat these big teams now. So I really like Indiana plus 7.5 on the road there. I think that should be a close one and a good one.
Who?
That's right. That's right. The next one, Red River rivalry, Oklahoma and Texas.
Oh, is that this week?
That is this week. I like, John Mateer obviously still out for Oklahoma. I like Texas -3 here. I think you can get a juicy 2.5. I don't mind just paying the low juice for the 3. If it goes under 3, I'd probably just bet it again at 2.5. This is a really good buy low spot for me on Texas against Oklahoma. I think Texas is the superior team. I wasn't surprised when they lost to Florida. I think I said as much when we were live for that game. Thought Florida would win that game. Texas is just a superior team, a superior quarterback, even though he hasn't played well with Oklahoma on a backup. So I really like Texas -3 there. Pitt at Florida State. Florida State's still in the rankings. I like Pitt plus 11.5 here. I can't get to this number. I make it around a touchdown. Pitt coming off a bye, Florida State coming off that disappointing home loss to Miami. A little sleepy noon kickoff spot there for Florida State at home. I like Pitt with the double-digit points there. And finally at night, Auburn hosting Georgia. This line opened at 4.5. It is down to 3.5. I still like Auburn plus 3.5 at home against Georgia. I don't think there's that much difference between these two teams. I think a lot of these teams in the SEC are pretty similar. I think Vandy and Alabama basically looked like two similar teams to me. I think the line Bama at Missouri indicates they're pretty similar. I think a lot of these top SEC teams, or even just the middle of the pack SEC teams towards the top, are about the same. So I will take the home team with the points in a night game here. I think Auburn has a really good chance to beat this Georgia team outright, who just their offense looks putrid to me week in, week out. They have not looked good. So I like Auburn there.
I'd put my whole reputation that Georgia covered that spread. So I'm glad you held me back from doing that.
Wow. Whole reputation.
Reputation remains intact. Not on the line yet. You're honorable.
I like Georgia in that one, John. I'm going head to head with you. I'll bet you a side bet as friends on that one.
All right.
There we go. Look at that. A little, you're honorable. Where would you rule on that game? Do you have anything?
Oh yeah, I'd have to go on the side of Pace here. You know, his reputation is well established and unquestioned and never defeated. So if he likes it, I've got to go with it there. So I'm on the Georgia side. Go Dogs.
All right, John. You got some competition there. Anything else, Trampus, from what John rhymed off there that you like or you dislike?
Haven't looked a lot at the college football lineup this coming weekend, and I was, as you know, out of commission this last weekend. One that stood out to me early here. Anyways, Texas -2.5. I'm looking at my computers. I'm looking at that. Is what I like.
So you're able to
John, just really quick.
I'm
Your
betting that right
rationale
now
for Dame last week. Oh, there you go. Okay, honorable's on 2.5. John, your rationale for Dame last week, are we not riding
That-
with that still?
That was the other one I was looking at. The line's
live on them.
The line's 22.5 on Dame. That was the one I was looking at. If that goes down at all, I'd like that. I'd like to get 21.
Yeah. It's a little too high for me right now.
Okay.
I want
a little too high. I think.
Yeah. If it got to 3 touchdowns is what I was thinking. I would take it, but 22.5 is a little much.
Okay.
We had mentioned Dame last week on the show, and we talked about the first half spread, and of course they weren't looking good, so we never pulled the trigger. But live, we were able to capitalize on Dame to cover some spreads for the game, which turned out to be another really good one for us. All right, NFL.
Jumping
NFL.
over. John's got his KC hat on. As we record on Monday, we'll know whether or not that was a good choice or not. But what do you got for us?
I just have the under tonight, so hopefully that will put my reputation on the line for that one. People can evaluate on Wednesday.
All right.
So week 6 NFL. So I like starting off in London. I like the Jets plus 7.5. Denver coming off a big upset win over Philly on the road. It's a little bit of a sleepy spot in London there. I think the Jets, they're winless, but I still don't think they're actually the worst team in the league or really even close to it. I think there's a couple other teams that are like Tennessee and New Orleans and maybe even the Giants that are worse. And I think, first year head coach, I think that a lot of those guys playing for contracts jobs, I think this team still really is motivated to win. So I like the Jets plus 7.5. I can't get to that number on a neutral field. I make it closer to 4.5. So like the Jets there. Packers, Bengals, I believe the spread's 14.5. Not touching the spread because the Bengals seem to keep proving that they simply cannot score until garbage time.
Yeah.
But I do like the under 44.5 here.
Okay.
I like this Packers defense. I think that, again, like I said, I think Browning is really going to struggle. And I think there may be a little bit of wind and some weird weather there. So I like that under 44.5. Rams, Ravens under 45.5. This one's scary since everybody that plays the Ravens seems to score 40 on their own. But I do like Stafford going outdoors. Ravens really got to try to figure something out here because if they lose this game, their season's over pretty much. So I like the under here. I think they try to grind it down and make this a defensive game where they've got a chance to win at the end. I also like the Bears, Commanders, under 50.5 on Monday night. I believe there's 2 Monday night games this coming week.
Monday nights. Yep.
Yeah. 50.5, just really high total for a prime time game. Caleb Williams on the road. They're basically expecting him to score 24 plus points. No thanks. I'll take the under 50.5 there. And going along the same line of thinking, I like the Commanders minus 3.5 in that game. That line's going to come down. I think the Bears have taken some early money. I just wish those people luck. Again, Caleb Williams on the road, a primetime game. I think this Commanders team with Jaden Daniels is still really good. And I think we're maybe still getting a little bit of value on them because he missed a couple weeks, but then they dominated the Chargers in the game this past Sunday. So I like the Commanders at home minus 3.5.
All right, that's it for NFL.
I got some NFL though.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. He's got stuff for us.
I got something for the NFL. So I have a teaser that I'll be betting. I don't think that. Do you guys have any updates on Lamar Jackson? I don't think he's going to play this week. They're on bye in week 7.
He won't.
And their bye week is week 7. I assume he's going to be out. There's no reason to rush him back. So I'm going to have a teaser on the Colts minus 6-point teaser, Colts minus 0.5, and the Rams down to minus 1.5. So that'll be my teaser bet. Rams, Colts teaser.
Colts, Rams teaser. All right. Pace, you want to hit us with an NFL teaser before we move to the CFL? No?
That was my identical teaser. So I'm putting my full reputation on this one.
Wow, we're in the same. This doesn't happen very often that Pace and I are on the same wavelength here, but today's the day.
My full reputation is going on the line.
I'm gonna double.
Wow. All right. Trappist places a bet. Pace places his reputation. Got it. There we go. Anything in the CFL? We get to it's Canadian Thanksgiving this weekend. We got a game on Monday.
I know we have a game on Monday. How exciting is that?
John, you last week I was like, are we still betting this shit? And you gave me one of those Harvard Goodwill Hunting moments where you stuck the you like apples? How do you like them apples in my face? And then you went 1-0 in the CFL. So let's keep them coming.
Yeah. What are we? 7 and I'm looking at the record over the last. I think we're 11-5 since college football started or something like that in the CFL. So maybe the bookmakers just aren't paying much attention to this league. So this week I like Hamilton -2.5 back to the well, fading the Stamps who look awful. They look lost. They seem to have derailed. I think they've lost 4 straight. I make this closer to a touchdown, so I'm taking Hamilton -2.5 at home against Calgary. And I also like Edmonton +3.5 against Winnipeg. Edmonton's still technically in playoff contention. I believe they're 2 games back. They can win out. They can make it. So I like Edmonton +3.5. I think this should be closer to a pick at home here. That Monday night game, Montreal -13.5 in that game. Good Lord.
Coaching advantage to the Elks there for sure.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. I love that guy.
So nothing in the Montreal game? Nothing on Monday? You just think the line's crazy?
It's like I want to take Ottawa +13.5 so bad, but they have nothing to play for. So
it's also not Monday morning. It's Monday. It's Monday night. It's Monday morning.
Oh yeah, okay,
me and you, John. It's Monday afternoon for Trampus and Shane.
Yeah, afternoon
see
game.
That.
Yeah. All right. Let's recap that then. College football. It's Illinois +15.5 against Ohio State. Indiana +7.5 against Oregon. Texas -3 against Oklahoma in the Red River rivalry. Pittsburgh +11.5 against Florida State. Auburn +3.5 against Georgia. Over to the NFL, the New York Jets in London +7.5 against Denver. Cincinnati Green Bay under 44.5. The Rams Ravens under 45. Chicago Washington under 50.5, and Washington -3.5. That sounds like an SGP to me. And Trampus calling the teaser this week. Colts, Rams. What were the lines again there, Trampus? How much of a teaser here?
The Rams down to 1.5, and
Colts
the Colts would be a money line bet, essentially down to a half.
Down to a half. Okay, there it is. And CFL, Hamilton -2.5 against Calgary, and Edmonton +3.5 against Winnipeg. That's everything?
That's it.
All right, guys. Great stuff this week.
One thing, Shane, just with SX, I think we should let people know that parlay contest is actually officially on right now. And with Raj and I doing some of our just for fun social media content where he's the fish. The parlays, it's insane how much more they pay at SX. So I don't care if you're a recreational player that uses Bet365, you should still place it where it pays better, number one. And number two, for a lot of this pregame stuff, especially the late lines in the CFL, I'm not saying the line will be better there, but definitely look. And the handle for some of this stuff pregame is unbelievable. So they just announced they had over 3.5 million in match betting volume in 48 hours over the weekend. So they're really starting to get more and more handle. And like I've said, if you're not using them live, just bring it open and make a line for what you would want at a commercial break. Keep it there. If it gets bought, great. If it doesn't, cancel it. I've had a few of those bought up where I got better prices than any other sports book that offered them. So make it a part of your ecosystem. I know it's not like the primary book that you can get drive props in on, but like player props are coming, so it should be really good. The more we can support them as winning bettors, the better off it is for all of us long run.
Yeah, and then we get those markets that you're talking about. They're trying to build and grow, and then they can start offering player props and that kind of stuff. So, absolutely worth supporting there. And most of those bets that John has thrown out for us there, you can find on SX. So definitely head over there and check it out. All right, guys, great stuff. Looking forward to seeing how we do and reconnecting next week. Trampus, is this going to become a regular thing? You going to join us again, or is this a one-off?
Anytime you invite me, I'll be here.
All right, we might hold you to that. All right. Well, Tall, John, Pace, till next week. Everyone else out there, keep eating those books. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Behind the Lines. Remember to like, download, and subscribe. We are on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcasts. Have a betting story or want to be featured on our podcast? Drop a note in the comments below. And if you want to join In Play Live, use promo code BehindTheLine.